from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
Championship season, the RTÉ Podcast back to preview the weekend's football championship action. 9 games across the 4 provinces as the spring turns to summer, sort of, ahead of a busy summer of Gaelic games action on RTÉ. The Sunday game returning this weekend, the big game, Armagh against Tyrone in the Ulster Football Championship, live from the Athletic Grounds after the Camogie League finals on Sunday afternoon. We're going to look ahead to it all in the company of former Tyrone footballer Enda McGinley, and Rory O'Neill is here in studio as well. Lads, hope you're keeping well. Championship in April, Rory. Does it do it for you?
No, it doesn't.
Stay listening, everyone. Stay listening.
Yeah. It's not like, I mean, look, we all love championship. Championship is like, it's just, I suppose, it's just not something that I've really gotten used to. And it could be just a peculiar thing and a very personal thing. And, my views around the whole condensed season probably well aired at this stage, and no one really needs to hear it again, because I think in fairness, the argument is well lost. And, I get it. The split season seems to be working for some people. And, but it's just, it's a weird thing. Maybe in time it'll become a little bit more normal. But I don't know. I just find it's very, we had a really good league campaign, and it, sort of built an incredible last day in the round robin stages. League finals were okay, similarly in a hurling context, and then it just straight into championship. There never really seems to be any room for people to just maybe take stock, take a breath, kind of absorb the different things that might be going on, and even straight into it now again this week. 9 fixtures across 4 provinces, most of which will probably not get a huge amount of traction. But look, at the same time, it's nothing to really do with the dates, it doesn't, like, whether or not the dates are a big factor, should be immaterial. On the flip side of it, having a fixture like Armagh Tyrone on week 1, I think is absolutely something to whet the appetites. But it just really hasn't.
But it takes
It's
time.
not something I've got really used to just yet.
Yeah.
But that's only a personal thing.
Yeah.
Lots of other people might feel differently.
Yeah. What are the interest levels like in Tyrone and ahead of the game? Because I know there was talk in Tyrone about, I think it was the attendance at the Cavan match. There were only something like 2,000 people at that match. What's the interest levels like heading into the weekend?
Hi, good question in that, and this is where a county sometimes gets at. There is huge discussion about it. The county team is a very frequent point of discussion, especially at the minute. But are people actually going to go and support? I think I've seen Colin McCullough of the management team coming out and sort of encouraging people to get to the game. So Tyrone, like the level of interest in football in terms of club level and club activities, and the county team and how the various county teams are doing, from the development teams to under 20s, the discussion groups, the WhatsApp groups, the personal messaging, the personal interest level is high. And yet, I've seen other people describe it, there's an apathy at the minute in terms of actually getting up and getting excited and getting behind the county team. And I think that would be fair to say. So on the one hand, the answer to that question is probably the interest level, or the excitement about going to the match and really looking forward to the team and looking forward to the campaign ahead. I'd say that's probably at a fairly low ebb, sadly. And yet the interest level, the discussion, how much it actually matters to people in behind it all is still very much there. So I don't know how you sew that disconnect together, or how you get people to go from that sort of passing interest to actually want to get behind and experience the highs and lows of following a county team closely. But at the minute, I suppose the following level would be similar to the expectation level at the minute.
I mean, we talk about interest levels. The interest levels when you were playing Enda in this fixture back in the noughties, Croke Park and all that sort of thing. Can you take us back there? What was it like playing in those sort of matches?
Yeah, it was phenomenal, and looking back, you do have to it 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 just doesn't make sense how that built into something exceptional at that stage. Those sort of early noughties games, and but it was the collision of two really good teams, and then you'd Kerry in the wings as well at that stage, and like it was, ironically, despite all the times we played in Croke Park, it was a Mechanic Cup game. I remember travelling to Casement Park in Belfast, and there was over 20,000 at it, and it
Casement Park.
crowded at it. And this was in January when on the team bus we were all looking around each other. This was January 2006 after the three games in '05, and I remember travelling to it, and we were sitting on the bus, and you know what players are like in January heading to a Mechanic Cup match. Well, yes, it was Armagh, but we were still in Mechanic Cup mode in January and having won All Ireland and team holiday and everything that goes with it. And yet you looked out the windows and just these throngs of supporters. But no, the games in Croke Park, they became so unbelievably claustrophobic. Like even playing with club or even playing with anyone, I've never had such an occasion where the tension and the nerves and the passion in the stands was every bit as heavy and as claustrophobic as that on the pitch between the players. It was colossal, and the physicality of those games, there was nothing in them. And ironically, I think it's well stated that three games that we played in '05, that sort of trilogy of games, the two Ulster finals and then the All-Ireland semi-final, in each of those, the team that probably played the better football and would have deserved to win probably ended up losing on each of those, and that worked against us for the Ulster finals, but in the end worked for us in the Ireland semi-final in the big one. So, no, they were. It was an era that'll probably stand up. Sort of, you go back to that the Dublin and Meath type era, and those wee pocket holes of just where two teams come. There's a wee healthy dislike of each other. There's enough of a difference between the two teams. And at that stage, both counties, both sets of supporters, it was all new to them. Tyrone hadn't won an All-Ireland before '03. Armagh had never won an All-Ireland before '02. So you had everything in all counties was all things about the football team. And it just so happened their near neighbours were just at the same pitch at just at the same time in history. So it was something special now.
Yeah, and the fact that both teams, like the winner of that match in 05, for example, probably would have fancied themselves to go all the way. So if you got past one, you felt like you could go all the way nearly.
Yeah. I think...
Absolutely. Kerry, that Kerry team of that era, that Kerry team would have won 5 in a row without a shadow of a doubt, only for the likes of ourselves and Armagh being about. Like it was a phenomenal Kerry team, and they obviously won the most All-Irelands of that era. But I suppose the closeness of the rivalry for ourselves and Armagh brought an extra space to that end of it.
I think one of the things that I thought was always remarkable as well about Tyrone and Armagh, particularly in that sort of from like Armagh were starting to hit semi-finals and winning Ulster championships from 99, 2000 onwards, but it was the first time that Ulster football really planted its flag in a sort of a post-Good Friday agreement era. And I think Ulster football has kind of more or less maintained its presence at that top table ever since. And I think it was largely driven by Tyrone and Armagh and the excellence that they sort of drove each other on to create that competition, that internal competition within Ulster, and obviously to go on and win the All-Irelands that they have. And even recently, again, both counties winning All-Irelands, which I think, there'll be most of the players that are going to be playing on Sunday, for instance, will have All-Ireland medals.
Yep.
Now, Tyrone obviously coming from their win 5 years ago at this stage, which is hard to believe, and Armagh only 2 years ago. But I think, look, in terms of, being at the forefront of really pushing Ulster football, to new peaks, I think the two counties have been, without a doubt, the standard bearers, and obviously now Donegal into that mix as well.
Yeah. So the current standing of the teams, and we've talked on the podcast a couple of times already this season about Tyrone and trying to figure out what's been going on for them there. Average at best, I think it's fair to say, that the league campaign for them. But in a strange way, is this the perfect sort of game for them maybe to spark into life now?
I think this is an essential game, with all due respect, something against Down or Antrim, Fermanagh, Monaghan, Cavan, teams that they would probably be able to play well and potentially scrape a win, but say very little. I don't think that's where Tyrone is at, nor where the team is at the minute. I think there is enough question marks over them, both inside and outside the county. And those question marks eventually have to start. I know people always talk about, oh, we shut out outside noise and the team lives in a bubble, and that is very true to a large extent. But without a doubt, whenever the noise level reaches a certain level outside, there is a sense of it within the bubble. So all the question marks that are hovering around are absolutely within that group at the minute. And I suppose people are waiting for a definitive answer one way or the other. Is the team at the minute, are they hungry enough and keen enough to go after this in a really big way and bring that massive energy that the modern game demands, and that we've seen throughout the league from teams like Armagh, even though the results have went against them, from Galway, Kerry, Donegal, all the top teams, Meath, Cork, like teams, whenever they're playing the modern game at the very top level, it's an amazing energy. It's a brilliant thing to see those top performance levels. Tyrone, we have seen it in a phase against Offaly, in a phase against Cavan, and in the first 15-20 minutes, I'd have to say, against Meath and Croke Park, they played with a real energy. And when they do that, that's phenomenal. But like two of those teams, Offaly and Cavan, are at the lower reaches of Division 2. And Meath, they fell away in that game as well. So we've so little evidence that Tyrone have really embraced that energy level that they need to bring. And is that a quality issue? Is it an energy issue? Is it a team atmosphere issue? All those question marks are there. They have the place as a group to give a hell of an answer in the athletic grounds, and that's with or without a result. The matter of the performance, like something about the Tyrone DNA. Whenever the backs are against the wall, when we're at ourselves, there is a serious defiance streak. There's a defiance. There's a chip in the shoulder. You call it what you will, but it brings out the best in us. And the ingredients are there for that type. In fact, the need is there for that type of thing on Sunday. And I suppose we'll see whether it's there. If it's not there, I think there will be it'll almost feel as if it's confirmation to everybody. But within Tyrone, we're hoping we can be surprised. We're hoping we can see something that we are beginning to doubt is there.
Are they lacking? Can I ask, Enda, is this current Tyrone team lacking a little bit in terms of identity? We know that there's absolutely no deficiency in terms of quality and in terms of certainly the talent that they've got coming through. 3 All-Irelands out of the last 4 at under 20 level speaks to that. But I from what I've seen, I've only seen them twice this season, because obviously when you're in Division 2, you're not available to be seen on TV as often as maybe you should be. But it was very hard to get a handle on what kind of style they want to play. I know, like, they have been beset by injuries. They've obviously had lads involved in club commitments, and they've also had players heavily involved in Sigerson Cup. So it created a stop-start element to their league campaign, which I'm sure was difficult for Malachy O'Rourke to deal with. And obviously, I think Dara Canavan was obviously hoping to try and get a bit of travel in as well. But I just found it, when you looked at Tyrone teams that certainly you played on, and that different Tyrone teams, you very much knew what you were going to get. You very much knew how they were going to play, and you knew, I'm not sure we get that same vibe off this current iteration.
It's funny you say that, Rory, but I'd have to fully admit it's one of my frustrations, and I know it frustrated Mickey Hart when he was over us. Our team won the 3 All-Irelands, but we messed up on several times in between and lost to opponents that were well down the pecking order compared
to us.
Beaten
by Laois in one year when you were All-Ireland champions.
That's right. And beaten by Meath and beaten by Cork as well during that era. lost to Down in a first round Ulster Championship match as well. Brought to a replay, I think it was maybe by Louth. So we were really well capable whenever it wasn't a really big game of playing damn average. And again, that would go back, if you're asking about DNA, that team there, or that previous era team, whenever, as I say, our backs against the wall, it was a big team there, and we were lucky there was big teams for us to go up against. Even Dublin at that stage, we used to love playing them, to be honest, because there was a real hype around them and winning the Leinster Championship. There was still huge excitement when they won the Leinster Championship in that era, and we would relish our hands about getting stuck into them, because there was they were really, really built up. Now in the latter years they lived up to every inch of hype, but in that era those were brilliant days, because you get big crowds, big excitement. It felt like really big games, and it brought out the best of us. But we absolutely faltered whenever it wasn't a big game, whenever we didn't fully see the opponent as needing our very, very best, whenever we came in knowing that only our best would cut it, then we produced something. So we had that weakness too, to be honest. And in part of me, I'm thinking Division 2 campaign is that part of what we were seeing, that just they sort of would feel if we play to our best here, we should be all right. But whenever you go out with that notion that you should be all right if you play a nice, sensible game, you can just suddenly miss that edge. And in the modern game, it really punishes you, as we've seen in the league final, when a team isn't quite at it. Even the best team in the country, for me, which is Kerry, even the best team in the country can look absolutely terrible. Yeah. Whenever your energy level isn't just there.
You can take a pummeling very easy.
But just on the Kerry thing, I mean, if we go back to shortly after half-time in the All-Ireland semi-final last year, that game was right in the melting pot. Now, I know Kerry pulled away towards the end, but Tyrone showed in that match, which isn't that awful long ago, that they're well
under
capable.
The new rules.
Yeah, they're well capable.
And go back to the Ulster Championship last year, which is essentially the same group of players, and even Meath, who were the best team in the division, for elements of that game, Tyrone made Meath look pretty ordinary, if you know what I mean. So there is that thing. But again, going back to, Rory, you asked it right at the top, or maybe it was Cal, but is this the game that Tyrone needed? Well, absolutely, and it's for that reason, because there is no element that the Tyrone mindset can be, if we just do this and this, we should be all right. No, there is, unless Tyrone produce something exceptionally special, Sunday could be an exceptionally tough day at the office.
Okay, it does.
And so all bets are off. That removes any doubt. That removes any, which I think potentially was there in the back of their mind during the Division 2 league, that they just, like, a terrible saying, but did they really? They might have felt they should be okay. They were unlucky to be relegated last year. So again, they haven't become a bad team overnight. Cahir Kane done a lovely piece on kickouts, which showed actually their kickouts, their ability to win opposition kickouts has held up really, really well. And Armagh at stages in games have got really well punished when they've lost phases of kickouts. So there's opportunities there. I know from speaking to people close within the camp, their frustration is that their performances they don't feel is reflecting what's happening in training. They feel the training is going well. They feel the work has been put in. They feel that they're in a good place, and yet you look at the matches and there's just their energy levels is almost mirrored by the support energy levels. It's just low. It's just there's something flat. There's something missing. But as we've referenced a number of times, this match is different. It's a one-off game. They can go out. They're essentially getting a free hit at it, and even a defeat, as long as it's the right sort of defeat, will do much for the spirit and the energy and the pride within Tyrone, and that group of players being able to say, yeah, we're not that far away, and then go on from there. But if they produce what they produced in the Division 2 league campaign, Sunday will be a very difficult day. I'd be pretty confident, knowing the men and about it, that won't be the case.
And they have, if you look at it, okay, we don't really know what's going on with Niall Morgan. He obviously had, other commitments, etc., and he's not been playing. So, but at midfield, Kilpatrick and Kennedy,
yeah,
you've got McKiernan.
But the
obviously
forwards,
Hampsey,
they have.
the forwards incredible. Hampsey is a huge loss, right? And it doesn't look like we'll be back anytime soon. This new kid on the block, Ethan Jordan, looks, an incredible talent. And that's even before you talk about the Canavans and Darren McCurry. Like they have a lot of really good component parts.
They certainly have.
It's just about putting it all together. And like the other thing that Enda mentioned, and I think it is important, they're going to need their supporters to turn up. Whatever about the players turning up. Like you're going into the athletic grounds,
the Armagh supporters.
There's going to be a lot of Armagh support there.
Yeah.
So you're going to need your support on Sunday.
Yeah.
I think anyway. I don't know. Enda, would you think?
Oh, well, look, support absolutely counts in a game like this, but it's pretty hard to get tickets as far as I'm down in the studio on Sunday. So I haven't been to them, but the Armagh support are phenomenal. To their absolute credit, they are phenomenal, and they are acting and behaving in a way very much that they're riding on a crest of a wave, but they're sustaining that wave too. It becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. But certainly there'll be a Tyrone support there. I just think at this stage of it, I think that the support needs the players to play in a way that makes them get in behind them, if you know what I mean. I think the players, I would have always players have the ability to quieten down support. Players have the ability to raise support, and the raising of support. Like we seen it last year when Tyrone went up to play Donegal in Ballybuffet. After Donegal were Ulster champions, and Tyrone turned them over, and they produced a brilliant performance. Got a wee shade lucky here and there in terms of a goal or two, but the energy and the fight and the way they went after that game was absolutely brilliant, and the bounce that was within Tyrone after that was phenomenal. We went then in really good numbers. We went to Healy Park to see them play Mayo, and it was an extremely flat performance. And you just, I think there's a wee thing there that if the team can come out and really start going after things, the way I think we believe they can, and I think deep down the way they want to, it's just it hasn't happened to date. I think there'll be they can certainly bring a massive amount of energy to the support as much as themselves.
You'd imagine Armagh are going to bring a lot of energy as well, because they really want this Ulster title, don't they?
Yeah, they do. You like they've been so near yet so far on a couple of occasions over the last number of years, losing 2 on a penalty shootout. I mean, how cruel does it get? There's a big prize now for getting to the provincial final, as we were discussing earlier. So, and I do think, and I know what people will say about the imbalances around the provincial championships, and it is true. Ulster is really tough because there's a lot of good teams, and it tends to be a very physical, abrasive championship.
Yeah.
Not only is Ulster really tough, one side of the draw is extremely stacked. So you've Tyrone, Donegal, Armagh, all on the one side, so. But I think from Armagh's perspective, I think they had a better league. I mean, I thought they were a little bit stop-start early on, and they were getting a lot of criticism for maybe their conversion rates and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how important that was.
You look at their league though. Like a couple of breaches actually cost them in a couple of games.
Exactly.
That's how
small
close
things.
it was.
But at their last 2 fixtures, and I always think these are good signs, and I know Dublin aren't what they were, but when your last 2 fixtures are Dublin Kerry, on paper they look tricky. And they picked 3 points out of 4, and they were actually unlucky not to beat Kerry as well. So they beat Dublin away, and they got a draw with Kerry at home, and that to me has given them a really good impetus going into the championship. They saved their bacon in terms of their Division 1 status. They're a Division 1 team anyway, and they're certainly in there for contention to potentially go, if Armagh end up in an All-Ireland final, nobody would be surprised.
Yeah. But it does feel like maybe, lads, I don't know what you think, that, okay, they got their All-Ireland, but to cap off this era, if you like, or to crown it for them, they would like to add an Ulster title as well, maybe.
Yeah, possibly.
They've done everything. They've done everything. But as Rory was saying, it's phenomenally unlucky that they haven't won one. I think Geezer will feel exceptionally reminiscent of his own team that he led. Now they won plenty of Ulster titles, but they won that one All-Ireland, and they never got another big title. So for this team, they've been punching now at the top for several years. They've got one All-Ireland. That's not enough titles for that group. An Ulster title will help, but obviously another All-Ireland is the one that they're ultimately after. That place in the Ulster final certainly smooths the run-in to your All-Ireland if you're on an away game against what will be a fairly top side, unless the draw happens to produce just a weaker opponent the way it sometimes can. But looking down through the types of teams that'll be in that draw, because of the draw, you've obviously got one of Mayo, Roscommon's going to be in it. Tyrone or Armagh, Donegal, two of them are going to be in it. You're going to have big teams. A couple of Leinster teams is going to be in it. Teams that don't make their Leinster finals of that. So that's going to be massive. And to get a home draw, to have to go to the athletic grounds versus Armagh maybe having to travel, and this is where the disparity in the championships come in. Like in Munster, Kerry and Cork are pretty much guaranteed. Now you could say drop Kerry into any province and they're going to get to their provincial final. But Kerry and Cork are guaranteed the provincial finalists. They're guaranteed home draws. I'm not sure you really want to be travelling down to Páirc Uí Rinn. I would imagine they would take them to, just for the warm welcome they could give any team that's coming down in there for those big championship games. So yeah, your place in the provincial final is absolutely massive.
Certainly is. 4:15 start on Sunday at the Athletic Grounds, and as I said, it's live on the Sunday game on RTÉ television this weekend. Let's switch, lads, to the other provinces this weekend, because plenty happening elsewhere as well. You mentioned Leinster there, ended 3 games there this weekend. Offaly Laois on Saturday, Carlow against Wicklow on Sunday, and Longford versus Westmeath on Sunday as well. Just looking at this set of fixtures, lads, I suppose it's going to be a contrast of momentum from the league versus no momentum from the league. If you look at that Longford Westmeath game, for example, Westmeath, I'd be very interested, Rory, to see or hear what training was like there the last couple of weeks off the back of that narrow defeat to Wexford that cost them promotion in the end.
I think they're on a good side of the draw in Leinster, though. Like, there surely will be plenty of motivation for them to progress, and you'd expect them to be. You know, they will be disappointed that they missed out on promotion. There's no point saying otherwise. It was huge. Like, it was the last kick of the game. You know, it was almost championship-esque in terms of what happened to them. You know, so look, from their point of view, they need to really push on. You'd expect them to win this weekend. Leinster's going to be like those 3 quarterfinals. I think are. I think they'll all be very keenly contested games in a lot of different ways. And Laois Offaly, I mean, other than
Tasty
being a
rivalry.
Political constituency, it's quite a, you know, is a hotly, that's an unbelievable rivalry in and of itself. Will the games get this type of profile that they deserve this time of the year? Probably not. But I think, look, it's I think those all 3 fixtures, given the way the league finished up for each of those teams, I think they all have their own little narratives and subplots, and very interesting games, all 3 of them.
I mean, Leinster's probably, lads, I mean, you could make the
Well,
argument
the
that's the
province
most
has come back from the dead.
interesting. Yeah. I mean,
I remember this time last year and would come off the back, similar to this year, would come off the back of a crazy sort of final round or 2 of the National League, and then you came down into the Provincial Championships, and I think last year there wasn't maybe any huge sort of opening round tie, and it just felt, and Leinster, we didn't realise Leinster was going to become what it became. This year feels very different. I'm really looking forward to the Provincial Championships. I can't wait. I think there's going to be some cracking ties out west. And in Ulster, obviously, we're starting this weekend with an absolute humdinger. And then there's some, like, if things go to form, Armagh and Donegal will win through to play each other in a semi-final. Like, what a semi-final of a championship. Derry should come through from the other side, and Derry should come through without having proven too much. And so they'll get their big chance for one massive win against either Donegal or Armagh if that goes to form. And whoever comes out of that semi-final, they'll be strong favourites, but they'll also be coming down off the back of that match. So that's a phenomenal matchup. We've got the collision of Cork v Kerry, most likely in Munster if that comes through, and in Leinster, like Rory, you were saying about the easier side of the draw. It's hard that for the past generation that has been, where's Dublin? Okay, the other side is the easy side of the draw, but Meath for me are probably favourites for the Leinster Championship at the minute, and they're on that side of the draw there. Westmeath, Longford would run into them. So the provincial championships for me this year hold more interest than they have done in maybe 15 odd years, which is brilliant. And it's very early in the year to be getting into it. But yeah, this Saturday and Sunday, Cathal, as you were saying, it is the story of momentum. All of those of the wee subplots that you were mentioning, Rory, like Offaly's league campaign just fell apart. Offaly's league campaign just fell apart with injuries and everything else. How many of them back? Can Laois and them do something? And they've got a chance against Kildare. I think both of them would still fancy a crack at that, whoever comes out of that. So, Carlo, how much has the celebrations and everything there can they right themselves and get going at Wicklow, Longford, Westmeath? That Westmeath story in the Division 3 was just the saddest thing I've seen in that final round of the league. I felt they deserved to go up, but they just didn't close it out. So have they righted themselves? Every one of those 6 teams will fancy themselves for that tie, which is a rare thing, but it'll be very interesting to see who picks up a bit of momentum from this weekend.
And maybe, Cathal, the Leinster Council were right after all. I mean, they kept telling us, this is all cyclical, that Dublin's dominance was cyclical. Now, it took 20 years for the cycle to complete itself. So maybe they were right all along.
Yeah, they might have been. And they're keeping the semi-finals out of Croke Park as well.
Do you know what? That's another very good thing. I think it's Tullamore and Portlaoise, is that right?
Yeah, they have great provincial grounds actually in Leinster, don't they?
They do. Ideal. Like when you fill Tullamore and you fill... both grounds, by the way, I think are excellent. Particularly, I've got great time for Portlaoise. Namely because it's a really handy one to get in and get out of. It's so handy to get in and get out of. But I think 2 fabulous grounds, and imagine the atmospheres on those days. Yeah. Like even last year now, when Dublin played Meath down there, it was a great atmosphere. I was just watching it on TV actually. Now it was spoiled a little bit because of extreme winds, which is something that could probably still be a factor because we're in April still, and 2-pointers and all of that kind of crack. But the Leinster Championship, I think it is open, and that's only to be welcomed. There's absolutely 3 teams capable of winning it, and maybe a bolter you wouldn't know.
Munster, Cork, they'll have a right crack off it, I presume.
Yeah, look, I think the big thing, I know what Enda is saying is correct, and everybody will always point to the lopsided nature of the way the championship will be formed, because it might feel like that Munster and particularly Kerry have it handy. But Carl, it's been that way for 150 years, since the GA was founded. It has been that way. And in that interim, we've had back doors, front doors, we've had round robins, Super 8s, we've had, Super 16s. Kerry keep winning All Irelands. So,
if you're good, you're good, I guess.
It doesn't really matter. They will keep continuing to be the team to beat every year, irregardless. So, what has Munster been? It has always been, as far as whenever I was growing up, it was Cork Kerry. Unfortunately, for the last 10 years, Cork football really, really lost its way. I don't think it's back, but I think it has made huge inroads to re-establishing itself. I think, is that a coincidence that has happened in tandem with how the game has changed? I absolutely do not. I think the two are absolutely linked. I think Cork completely lost their way, admittedly, from off the field and underage and in the schools. But I also think the way the game went, I think the crowds just didn't like. Football had become almost unwatchable, and that then had a knock-on effect in terms of people's appetite to go and support. I think the two now, you can see, are starting to kind of, germinate again between each other. Does it mean that Cork are going to go down to Killarney and beat Kerry for the first time since 95? Unlikely. But I think they will. It'll be a proper contest. It'll be an old-fashioned Munster football final. It will have a huge crowd, and you just never know on a one-off.
But I can hear Limerick people screaming because Cork are playing Limerick this weekend.
No, ordinarily Limerick. But it is a bit of a bridge too far from a Limerick perspective.
Yeah, and it's in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, isn't it? Yeah. They've got home advantage. The other game in Munster is Waterford Tip this weekend. And
I was just, when we were talking about the championship, I don't know about you boys, but whenever the new format came out and got voted through, I didn't sit down and study it too much. I didn't sit down and think, right, where does this lead? I think we were back off a year where we'd done nothing but rule changes, consistent rule changes in the whole FRC and everything that was coming through that there. And obviously we did various permutations coming round. And I sat down this week and ahead of this to try and just, right, what is actually the structure of the 2026 championship? And you're trying to foresee where the matches could become. It honestly could be amazing. You always need a wee element of luck with the draw in terms of throwing certain teams to certain places, but you will have big teams landing in other big teams' backyard for key summer championship matches. Like the format of it, and it's neater, it's more cutthroat.
Yeah, no draws anymore, Enda.
It's sort of the culmination of the various years where the stratifying it out into obviously you've got your senior championship and your Tailteann Cup championship, and then this here puts it back into sort of a closer to a straight knockout type format, and brilliantly, and again going in line with what you were saying about Leinster moving their semi-finals out of Croke Park, going to these provincial towns, going to own counties' home grounds for those big ties in summer with real significance. Honestly, I think that combined with the many more teams that we have at a really good level, I think it could be a really cracking championship. But for teams in the early rounds, it's about putting in good performances. I don't think any team's season is made or broken this weekend. If you're going to lose in the right manner, lose with a wee bit of hope there, and lose with a wee bit of something about yourself. And then you'll go into your own competition where you can build on something. I think the National League obviously is over. Teams will have had key goals in it. Provincial championships, unfortunately, they have fallen down the pecking order, but I think there's enough there this year to get interest in it. Each team will have their own merits, and then we're into the 2 All-Ireland Championships. But the structure of it, I think we might be as close to perfect as we've been in a long time. Yeah,
let's hope so. Connacht action this weekend as well. London, Mayo and Royslip, and New York against Roscommon and Gaelic Park this weekend, and Sligo against Leitrim then at Markievicz Park this weekend as well. Just before we finish, lads, why don't we take a wider look maybe at the order of things maybe before the
Mayo,
championship
by the way,
starts?
Did you hear Cathal Mayo are training in Brentford on Friday, and their build up to over the weekend on Saturday, and their build up to so there was a bit of a contact there with,
I think there's a Mayo Alan Walsh, I think it could be that's involved in the background in Brentford.
Mayo guy or
no, but you know Mike Solan, the Longford manager, his brother Barry, I think, was S&C with Arsenal for a while.
Right,
and he's a Ballaghaderreen dream man, but Mayo will be using the long throw in then maybe this weekend or something like that against London. Watch out for that. I'm going to throw a few things at you here, lads, maybe in terms of the order of the teams starting out, so you can jump off this and see what you think. Donegal and Kerry out in front of the pack, which is led by Armagh. Galway, Mayo and Meath already in there as well. Then I'm going to say the next group is Dublin, Cork, Derry, Roscommon, Louth and Tyrone.
I would agree with all of that except for Meath. I think the jury is still out in Meath. I'm not 100% convinced yet that they're at that level. I think there was a lot made last year of... well,
my theory there is they beat 3 big teams last year. Yeah, they backed it up in Division 2 this year.
But to caveat that, the 3 big teams that they beat last year, and if you were to take each of those in isolation, so they beat Dublin in a non-knockout game at a time when, let's be honest, Dublin are a pale shadow of themselves. Fair enough. They then beat Kerry also in a non-knockout game. And got a sense. I watched that match in full live as it was coming in here. Kerry looked half asleep to me that day and just didn't take the game seriously. And the one knockout game that they did win was Galway, who, let's be honest, can be flaky at best, right? They're almost as flaky as the Cork hurlers in one sense, in terms of, right, losing big games. So I'm not entirely sure if Meath are right up there in that top pecking order just yet. I think they have a bit of work to do. I think they did exceptionally well to come out of Division 2, but, you know, I'd still hold off on terms of putting them in the top bracket.
Okay, and
You
read that out too fast for me. My hand's not fast enough to write that down.
I'm going to say
Where did you have Derry?
I put Derry in the third group,
Along with
Dublin, Cork, Roscommon, Louth, and Tyrone.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that their league wasn't consistently impressive. They were impressive at stages, but not consistently.
Yeah, they took a bit to get going. So I think what Rory says about Meath is absolutely right, and of course the caveat to that is until they haven't done anything also to not say that they're right up at that level, if you know what I mean. They have done everything they needed to do. Now, you could also, in the same way as sometimes fixtures fall at the right time for you, for example, the Kerry game with them last year, they played Derry in the very first league game, and Derry were still on that run of losses and just couldn't get over the line. So again, if they played Derry mid-season, I don't know. But again, they have come up with every single answer. I love watching them. I think there is so much good about them. I think when you go through their defensive players, their size, their strength, their goalkeeper, and then the attacking talent that they have, and the men that they have coming back, like James Conlon only came back in, and we've seen what he done.
4 points off the bench, wasn't it? Yeah.
If Matthew Costello gets fit again, so their options and their belief and their bravado and the way they play, it's absolutely brilliant. My question is, whenever it gets into the more pragmatic football, shall we say, the more really disciplined, slightly more cynical, like all the teams that go and really win stuff, Armagh, Kerry, they're able to manage games, they're able to play in a dull and boring manner if they have to, if that's what's required. I think Meath play, it's full bore. They go at it. And that's why it's so refreshing to see. But I think to win a championship, you have to be able to mix that. Now they have shown their ability to finish out games, so maybe they have already shown that in their own way. But until they play those really big games, and the other thing is, whenever their head is now firmly above the parapet, where Kerry last year went down and maybe took them for granted, maybe even Galway maybe took them for granted, maybe didn't think that they were at the full level. Galway might have been in one hand of their mind, or one corner of their mind, thinking of Armagh and Kerry and trying to win that All Ireland, and again, having been there, that can happen to teams at that stage. But Meath will be taken very, very seriously now by all of the top teams, and so it'll demand more of them. But up until now, they have had every answer they've needed. Yep. So until that falters, we've no evidence either way, but they're certainly an interesting one. Derry, for me, are also very interesting. I think there's something about Derry that, in terms of dark horses, they would be ahead probably within that pack, although Dublin as well. I would have Derry and Dublin as a wee Group 2B. If you can have a Group 2B, I would have Derry and Dublin, just because both of those teams, we know from very recent history, have top level in them, and at times we've seen that returning.
Like a big one for me, Colin, and I'll ask you and Enda. Big one for me as always, because I think it's a real mark of a good season. A good season for most teams, no, Kerry aside, and obviously a few other of the top counties, Donegal included in that, is to make it to semi-finals weekend. That to me is a kind of a marquee weekend.
Your last four.
So who would you go for? All things being equal and nobody meeting each other along the way.
Yeah, I would say the four best teams in the country right now: Kerry, Donegal, Armagh, and I always have Galway in the top bracket. I think they have enough good players to be in the conversation again. And I think Galway, actually, if I was to pick a dark horse in inverted commas, if they can get everyone fit, I think they have enough to win an All-Ireland. But
Enda?
I'd agree with Cathal with those four: Kerry, Donegal, Armagh, Galway, absolutely. yeah, I think those four are certainly Armagh. Like again, you go through their season and ahead of this weekend. Like I was thinking, sitting out at the start of the National League, we'd all pretty much say the same thing. What do teams really want in Division 1? They don't really care about the title. They'd prefer not to be relegated. They'd prefer to show good performances and maybe discover a couple of players. They have done all of that. They've ticked every single box. So they're in decent health. But yeah, Kerry Donegal out in front, Armagh, Galway close behind. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, and the only one that I would take out, I'd probably take Armagh out. I think they might struggle because I think Donegal will beat them in the Ulster semi-final, which will, throw them onto a difficult path. And the team that I think that I'm most excited to see, and there's an obvious reason, but also the team that I was impressed with quite at different stages through the league. I know they took 2 shellackings from Donegal and Kerry, but I'm really interested in Mayo. I just think in terms of athletically, there's a championship mindset in Mayo as well, where you generally tend to see the best of them. And I saw enough that would excite me and would excite the Mayo support. And I think they're back as well. The Mayo support are back in behind them. And I think they could get momentum very early on. And we know what they're like. You'll know better than most, Cathal, I'm sure.
I would say for Mayo, the most important thing for them, obviously beat London this weekend, but if they can beat Roscommon then in that semi, because then, like you said, that puts them on the path where they get a more reasonable draw down the line. Do you want to finish with lads 4 provincial champions? Rory, do you want to have a crack?
I think Meath will do it in Leinster to make up for the defeat last year, which I think is another question mark over them, by the way. So I just think that I think it'll be an old-fashioned Leinster final, Dublin-Meath, with Meath to win. So I just think they're better than Dublin, but that'll be a 50-50. Kerry, look, all things being equal, you can't really see anything other than a Kerry victory in Killarney. I think Mayo will win Connacht.
Okay.
And Donegal to do 3 in a row.
Okay. Enda, last word to you.
Yeah, Meath, Kerry, Galway would be my 3 from those. In terms of Ulster, the draw is just mixing me up a wee bit. I think Armagh and Donegal are both ahead of Derry, but I think the way that Ulster final will come about, if those teams all progress, and imagining the type of semi-final it would be between Donegal and Armagh, Derry will be well placed to potentially grab an Ulster title from beneath one of those other 2 teams who I think will punch deeper and harder into the final stage of the championship. But yeah, so I'll go for Meath, Kerry, Galway, as I'd imagine all of them are maybe favourites for their championships, and Derry as a wee outside pick for Ulster.
There you go then. Let's see how it all pans out, lads. Thanks a million, and enjoy the game on Sunday. Enda as well. Reminder, that's live on the Sunday game, which is back this Sunday on RTÉ Television, the live programme in the afternoon and the evening programme as well. There's also a GA preview championship show available on the RTE player as well, and we'll have the podcast back as well next week to review it all, and we'll talk to you then.
Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by as high